Welcome to Men, Menopause, and Miracles, the podcast where midlife women are here not in a crisis to survive, but a crossroads rich with wisdom, courage, and choice. This is a space for women who have done everything right, climbed the ladders, carried the load, and are now hearing a deeper question whisper. What's next and what actually fits now? I'm Suzanne, your host and your midlife wingwoman. I'm here to walk beside you as careers evolve, identities shift, and old definitions of success loosen their grip. Together, we'll explore the real conversations happening behind closed doors, the ones about work that no longer light you up, ambition that wants to be redefined, relationships that change, and the quiet miracles that happen when you finally trust yourself. Each episode brings honest dialogue with coaches, experts, and women who've stood at this threshold and chosen alignment over autopilot. Not quick fixes, not reinvention theater, just grounded guidance, lived wisdom, and permission to claim the next chapter on your terms. Today, we explore what really happens when midlife women stand at the intersection of experience and possibility and have more freedom in choices they make, navigating career transitions not as a leap to the unknown, but as a return to self. So take a breath, settle in, lean forward. Your midlife isn't ending, it's coming into focus. This is episode 34, Work, Worth, and What's Next. My guest today is fellow coach Shelby McGuire Canlas, who's board certified in career and life coaching, specializing in personal coaching for career and life success. She provides a fresh perspective for creative and corporate professionals who are ready to make their dreams real, achieve goals, and get shit done. Shelby is primarily based in Southern California and serves clients globally. She's always had a knack for getting inside people's heads in the best way possible with her background in sociology, psychology, and all things human resources. With her robust background and toolbox, I wanted Shelby to share what she's seeing when getting inside the heads of her midlife clients and helping them at this stage of their career pursuits. What I love is that Shelby is really your personal mental strength coach because she believes the mind is where the magic happens. Welcome, Shelby. So glad to have you on the podcast today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Suzanne. It's so fun to be here because this is such an important topic and you present it in such a fun way.
Thank you. Yeah, we need some fun, right? I
Right?
mean, we talk about that. I mean, no, enough seriousness about
Good.
life, especially when you get to midlife. There's enough to be serious about
Yes.
here. So, no, and thank you for your patience with my long-winded intro about you, but I know that you're going to bring some good nuggets to our audience here. And just to start, for our listeners to get to know you, share a little bit about maybe how long you've been in the coaching space, a little about you and where you are on the midlife meter.
Well established is the answer to that last question. But so I've been in coaching for over 15 years now, and it certainly evolved. It started with job search, which is sort of that natural extension because I had just come out of recruitment and HR, as you mentioned. And then, but it has evolved into more traditional corporate. Now I work a lot more with the emerging leaders and early executives and that kind of thing. And I have a very whole person view of it. And I always talk about that with my clients. Like, we might be working on your leadership presence, but if you're having a bad day at home, like that's what we're going to talk about in our coaching session because it will affect your ability to, how you present yourself at work. And
Perform
so it's
and
you're all of yourself all of the time is what I
uh,
tend to say.
yeah,
So,
I love that. Your whole self. We don't have to leave parts of it behind anymore. How
right.
about you? Where are you on the midlife meter? Just entering in the middle somewhere?
I'm on it. I am How
We're in it to win
how
it.
specific do I get? I am on HRT. That's where I am. So,
Same, same,
yeah.
same.
So
Little
I'm
help from
I
little
should say I'm
friends.
happily on HRT. And so, yeah, so that's where I am. Yeah, like, I have all the things we're talking about today are all the things I'm currently experiencing. I have a freshman in college, I have a sophomore in high school, all those, all the reasons we get to, all the circumstances, I should say, that are occurring while we're here. So
Yeah. Yeah. When you say in your checking out your website a little bit and you mentioned being the secret weapon you didn't know you needed, what do you mean by that? What do you think is a secret weapon that you can help midlife women with that they don't know that they need yet? When you think about your clients you're interacting and they're having all these ahas and maybe how you can help them.
I have so many different answers to that question. And I think the one that comes to the top the most is I'm going to help you quiet your mind for a minute so that we
Love
can
that.
get to what it is that really matters, right? And that's what coaching is, right? It's just dedicating that time to yourself. And that's
Mm,
how things happen in coaching. It's not necessarily because I ask amazing questions every time. It's just because you're
yeah.
forced to think about yourself. And we don't stop and think about ourselves otherwise. We're not great at
Yeah.
that, I think.
Right. You maybe, yeah, teaching, learning, I know women learning to even have space for themselves,
Right.
literally, physically, in working with you, I'm sure. Um, what are you seeing as some of the tough questions, if you're seeing it yet, that like midlife women are asking themselves at this stage related to their careers? Are you seeing many who are at that like shifting place or some of them that are still wanting to press hard into climbing the ladder?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think this is where people start for various reasons. Like I said, like maybe they're almost empty nesters like I am, right? Or maybe they never had kids, but they are suddenly like their parents are starting to age. And so they're just getting this whole new perspective on their life and where their priorities are and where they want their priorities to be. And so the way that affects them in their career is sometimes they finally take a step back and think, I was here because I had to be here, but do I want to be here? And
Yeah.
if not here, where do I want to be? And that starts coming up a lot more. And maybe it is. Maybe they are happy, but they realize they didn't pursue that promotion they should have pursued 10 years ago because they were too concerned they wouldn't be able to also volunteer in the classroom. Or, these
Mm,
different things like that. Or maybe they realize, like I said, aging parents, and what really matters is that they spend quality time, that they're putting their energy to the right things. And so that if they're going to be at this job still for a while, because most of us are still working for quite a while, right?
yeah.
We want it to matter. We want it to
Yeah.
make sense if that's what we're giving so much of our time to.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like you said, once time opens up and there is that freedom, and then asking like your women clients, it sounds like that distinct turning point. Do I still want this now
Mhm.
that I've kind of changed and evolved and I have the freedom of time and space? Yeah, that's good. Are there any patterns that you're starting to see that like, kind of signal this for women, midlife women to wanna go, and I know you work with both men and women, so I'll just say midlife people, any patterns that you're starting to see that signal that they want something deeper than a career plateau?
I I think that's exactly it. I think they're coming to realize they want something deeper. I think that is 100% the signal where, we graduate college, maybe we get a job, we have to pay rent, so we have to make a certain amount of money. Like we're in this cycle, we start this cycle, right? And then we
Yeah.
get to say your 40s or early 50s or whatever, and you realize maybe I don't have to do that anymore. Like maybe it got me here and it was really good, but that's not really what I ever wanted to be or what I ever wanted to do. And so I think the signals are things like I'm not enjoying work as much as I used to, or I'm just not as motivated as I
Mm,
used to be, right? To get to that next
yeah.
level or whatever it is. And so I think those are the signals that start people down the road of then what?
Right. Now what? Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the what's next. I mean, working with women at this stage, what does it start to reveal about things like you can relate to this, whether personally or your clients? It's like working at this stage, what does it start to reveal, or what do they reveal to you about things like power, purpose, and self trust? How do you see that, those things shifting?
Oh, that's so good, Suzanne, and so tricky to answer that because it definitely does reveal those things. I would say it sometimes helps them to like, it brings to light where they are with themselves with regard to power, like how much power they think they have and how much power they're actually sort of embracing. And self-trust is sort of where we have to start, right? I need you to believe that you can do this. If you do want to make a change, I need you to
Right.
believe you can, right? And
Yeah.
but what we have, the beauty of the midlife sort of pivot or asking yourself these questions is we have years of evidence showing you can do these things. You can do hard things. You can accomplish what you set out to accomplish because you've been doing it for all these years. Just because it's
Yeah.
going to look a little different, it's still those same strengths apply,
Yeah.
right? That
Well,
resilience and
would you
yeah.
well, I was just gonna say, would you agree it's because now it's almost like the lens is shifted internally, right? Like, we have a lot of trust that we have these strengths in doing them for other people, family, corporations, but then when, it's kind of internalizing, like turning that power, purpose, self-trust inward, I find that is like a new relationship, right? Because women are givers going out, but to turn
Yeah.
that inward, I think is like we were talking about whole new journey, a whole new relationship that they're building. I mean, for you, I know you've done coaching for a while. So now with you transitioning into midlife and coaching women in midlife, how has that transformed who you are as a coach in any way? Has any changes come up for you?
Yeah, you know what's kind of fun about that is what it has where I think that has changed me the most is how I approach younger women that I'm coaching. Because
Nice.
right, because now we know that, like, you don't have to get to the end of your career to this, and look back and not be happy with where you end up, isn't it? Like, you can actually start planting those seeds now. Like, start leaning into your strengths now. Start aligning your values to your work now. And you may still have to take a job to pay the rent, right? But now we know there are things you can do to start exploring, like with networking or volunteering or whatever, to try and really get a sense of who you are so that maybe you won't make a big shift in your 40s, or maybe you'll be positioned to make that shift. So I think it's affected a lot how I look at my younger clients.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much information available now that just our parents, grandparents really didn't have.
Right.
Things were not as magnified as they are now or openly spoken about, which I'm so excited that they are, as you mentioned, because the younger generation just having some insight to that, even asking the question I never asked myself when I was younger, when you're, getting the job, like, well,
Mhm.
why am I taking this job? Why do I want to do
Right.
this? Right. Just said, oh, great, there's a job, I'm taking it. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. If this job will allow me to eat, I'm going to take this job.
That's right. Yes.
Or I got a degree in X. And so, of course, I'm going to take that job because that's what I'm supposed to do or that's what I should do. Right. We start shooting ourselves all over the place. And that just snowball, right? Just continues.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like the midlife wake up call, I know for me, I've had my own triggers that typically align, I'm going to say with menopause, because
Mm.
definitely the brain fog, the slowing down. If I didn't have the body or mind slowing down, I don't know if there would be really those for me, the physical and the mental were the triggers for looking at things. What are the most common moments that you see triggering and it could be the empty nesting, but just trigger
Mhm.
career transitions at midlife. Is there any triggers you see women having, experiencing?
So I'll be honest. the physical changes do come up in coaching, but I don't see that as much as being the trigger as things like maybe they got a layoff or company was
Mhm.
bought and they don't like the new owners kind of thing. Or yeah, the empty nest where they just have more freedom, more time. Um, it's tends to be more yeah, these sort of I don't know, like external forces that I think
Yeah, so that yeah, and you're working with corporate professionals, definitely.
yeah.
I know we're in a season with so much happening post-COVID of
Mhm.
and AI and transitions of the world that we live in that, yeah, layoffs are a pretty common thing. And that can, when you have like, I think what resonated with me is when you just said you basically have time to actually think about things like whether the kids are leaving your as empty nester, they're going to college, layoff, those transitions where you actually have a moment to breathe
Right.
and reflect
Whether
on
it's
things and ask
forced
yourself
or
questions.
otherwise, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that is what it is, and a lot of times I find those people, especially if it's like a layoff or if they've taken a package of some sort and they're choosing to have that time to reflect, the first thing on their list is to get right physically. I do find that pretty consistently, where they
Okay.
all the things they put off, like some sort of exercise routine or having fun outside or whatever it is, like that always goes on the list first, and then
Yeah,
they
and
start
that's great. I mean, I mean, the high stress, I just remember being in, when you're in the corporate space and you're in a high performing job or with a high performing company, just taking in that amount of stress. I know that I got to a certain point where I c- just couldn't, wouldn't want all the above to
right.
do the high level stress anymore. My body and mind were calling me to something like, "Hey, I'm good to work hard. I just don't want to work in a high stress capacity because I start to feel it in my body." And then that requires like what you're talking about, the care with exercising, massage, like PT sometimes when the back or the neck are out of whack. But how much of the transition do you find with midlife women is about the career or about their identity?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think one of the first things we find is that they realize their career is not their identity, right? That's not who they wanna be necessarily, and they start seeing all the other areas of their life and how they really would like fulfillment in addition like, work is just one thing among
Yes.
many things in which they would like to be fulfilled. And so I think there's an interesting separation like, where I am not my job. I'm this person who does this thing, but I'm also all these other things.
Yeah, that it's wonderful and scary, I think, at the
Right,
same time.
right, right.
Uh,
I think
because when something's yeah,
I would just say it's perspective, right? We have the benefit of perspective at this point in our lives where we can look back and be like, and just notice that, like, maybe that's who
yeah,
I was back then, but that's not who I am.
right.
Yeah, I don't want to be known as just that thing. So,
Do you do you see any internal narratives holding midlife women back more than the external barriers? Like just any internal, I know syndrome when I was in the corporate space was a very popular thing to talk about, but I don't know any limiting beliefs, internal narratives you see holding midlife women back?
yeah, it's can I do it?
Mm,
Right? It's like this what I'm thinking of might result in a really big change. Can I do it? Like, do I have the sort of
mhm.
internal fortitude? Do I have the external resources? And sometimes that can get overwhelming just there and then they just stop. And then they just keep doing what they're doing
Yeah,
because, right? Same reason you stay with a
yeah,
in a bad relationship. It's there.
right. Or it's
Right.
comfortable or it's
We know it's
familiar.
yeah, it's all of that.
It's familiar, it's something is better than nothing, all
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to just, like, saying, "Well, let me check it out." I think one of the best things you can do at that stage is just say, "Well, I give myself permission to explore." Like, I don't have to make any
Mhm.
decisions. I don't have to make any big changes. I'm not gonna quit my job and, like, try join the circus.
Go on a road trip.
I would maybe go to the circus and see if I like the circus. And right? But in the
Yeah.
meantime, I'll just keep doing this job, but I'll do it with intention now because now this job serves a purpose. It's allowing me to explore. It's giving me
Right.
the financial foundation I need so that I can maybe take a vacation and see if I want to relocate, right? Or I
Yeah.
can, I can start checking these things out. And so yeah, I think giving ourselves permission to explore is a really important thing.
I do love that because that really does tie into, at least I know how I was raised in my environment, I will say, whether it's homeschool or other, right? It was a much more permission, approval
Mm,
based.
right.
And so to let that go and to understand that we as women have the ability to give ourselves permission, approval. You don't need to seek that externally or outsource it.
Mhm.
And yeah, and you were just speaking, my next question was just about how capable women underestimate their transferable powers at this stage. And I think it's just, what I see is just the practice, the exercising the muscle, the unfamiliar that you were talking about, but feels a little uncomfortable. Yeah. And how do you coach women through maybe that, maybe underestimating who they are and the power that they have at this stage?
Right. Oh, we go to the evidence, right? We talk about, tell me about all your successes. Like let's get you fluent and able to speak to like all the amazing things you've done and feel that. Feel how good that is when when you look back on that and know that like nothing has changed. You're still that same person. You can do more amazing things. You still have all those same skills, all that same strength, all those same strengths. They're all still in you. And now we're just going to use them for this next thing. That's all it is. It's just what's next, right? And so
Yeah.
sometimes the first thing we usually do is go to the evidence.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. What do you see usually changes first? Is it their confidence, clarity, or courage?
I think it has to start with it doesn't have to, but it does start with clarity. Once they get like, yeah, I think this needs to happen, then the courage kicks in and they take that little step. And once they've taken one step and it went okay, they can take another step and then the confidence starts to come. And so they don't
Nice.
usually all happen at once.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice. They kind of align up,
Yeah,
but
they
it's
build on
it's
each other, right?
yeah. How do you help women reconnect with the ambition part, the motivation part after years of prioritizing others, whether it's others in work, like their team, the company, sometimes it could be a place, right? It's just like prioritizing the goals of the company or family goals. How do you help them reconnect with their own personal kind of ambition? It could be dreams, motivation.
I think well, obviously, always it depends on the person, right? But generally speaking, we have to strip away all the shoulds, all the here's what I think I'm supposed to be doing, and we have to get back to
Mm,
like who are you in all of
mm,
that? Like who are you and who do you want to be? And that in itself sometimes reconnecting with who you are. Sometimes we have to go
mhm.
back to childhood. Like what were your hobbies back then? What did you like
Yeah,
doing then? What brought you joy then? And then just sort of extrapolate right from that.
yeah,
Like what was it about that? So you loved riding your bike. What was it about your bicycle? Right? Well, I love being
right.
outside. I love the freedom. Like just getting back to who you are is really
Mhm.
important. I have some people where it's not I have one client in particular who, one of her greatest coaching outcomes is that she picked up the guitar again and started getting lessons. It was something she had started back when she was much younger and then put aside because life took over, right? And
Yeah.
she gets so much joy, and it's such a stress reliever for her that she picks up her guitar, and that's an outlet for her. And that was something that came as a result of us saying, Who are you? What is it that brings you joy, fills you up, makes you happy, and makes you feel like you?" And I think that's what we're
Mhm.
always trying to get to. What makes you feel like you? Because then we know you're in the right place, right?
Yeah, I love that. Just clearing, it's clearing out and connecting with things. Like I even think about my physical space. In midlife, I really wanted to let go of a lot of things that I had simply carried with me. And especially if you have room to put things, space, they just sit there. So kind of in mentally too, it's like, okay, let's just clear out some of that and get to who you are. I love that. I think that's such a beautiful thing. That's what we're learning.
Right. If we could stay there for a second, because I'd like to hear how you made the decision on what to clear out, because I think that's important, right?
Yep.
And how it felt. So do you
Yeah.
mind
Okay, a
sharing your
little
top?
coaching moment here. Let's go. What I started with was my closet, and what I realized was, 'cause midlife is such a turning point. It's like, in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, I could take stuff with me and I could probably still wear some of that. But they really, almost like photos, pieces of clothing held memories of where I was and who I was at the time. And
Sure.
that was the harder part to let go than the clothes themselves. It was like physical evidence of who I was. And they were good memories because obviously I'm not don't wanna hold on to the ones that
Right.
were bad, but it was just like it was the identity thing. It was, kind of like a recognizing, that's who I was, and just kinda honoring that and then letting it go on to, Goodwill, wherever, someone who's gonna enjoy it who is in their
Right.
20s, 30s, or 40s.
And then how did it
And
feel when you make that decision, you drop the things off? How did it feel?
I mean, and that's where when you were talking about clarity, right? Courage, confidence. I just started to feel like full of my like myself here and now. Like there was just more space for
Mhm.
myself. I mean, it felt really good once I again, the thing was that I think the thing was the clarity, like you talked about, is I just knew where I was, where I was going,
Mhm.
and where I wasn't any longer, right? So I'm no longer going to go, whether it's to a club or to do, I'm not, and I'm definitely not going to wear what I was wearing in my 20s and 30s now. So, I mean,
Although they're
one
back
might,
in style, Suzanne, so
well, that's true. That's true, but body changes and shifts kind of give you hey, we're gonna be wearing something else now. So it was an honoring moment. It was just a personal, and that's the thing with if a woman has the opportunity, you could do I've done, how can I say this? I've done clearing out with family and friends. I think it's always great if you need or want a support person to do that, but it's
Mhm.
also a beautiful moment just with yourself, self-love, self-worth,
Mhm.
just recognizing what a beautiful person you are, who you were, and where you're going. It was a beautiful honoring moment. I know that's a lot for cleaning out the closet, but that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, the reason I sort of, made you reveal yourself in that way is because I do feel like any of your listeners are going to relate to that. They've all cleaned out their
Mm.
closet and had that feeling of just, "Oh, this feels really good. I feel lighter. I feel, like you said, more clear. I enjoy my space now more." Like, we can all relate to that, and I think we just need to remember that's what we're working towards. We have
Yeah.
access to that feeling. We know, what needs to happen to get there, and it's gonna feel really good when we get there, so we just gotta have the courage to keep moving towards that.
Yeah, the courage, and that's why I'm always a big, believer of something I learned later in life. I wish I would have learned earlier on, but is asking for help. So if
Yeah.
something feels too big or overwhelming for me, that's why having you here with our audience, like a coach, there's people that do organizing, clearing out clutter. There's so many avenues. We don't have to do this alone if something feels big and scary. And like you said, until we get the courage and the confidence. And so yeah, just love putting that out there because you don't have to go at it alone if it feels too much. But what do you see as any strengths that tend to re-emerge, or if you're seeing that? I mean, I know I have my own thoughts on this, but re-emerge at midlife that were dormant earlier. And this could be your own personal experience or just anything you're seeing in your clients, if there's any strengths that you're seeing re-emerge.
Well, what's kind of fun is once we get to the other side of the "Can I do this?" is, "Yeah, I can do this." Right? We have that
Nice.
sometimes, like, when you're youthful, you think, "Sure, I can do it. I can do anything." Right? And now
Yes.
we sometimes I see we go back to that, but with more, it's just sort of more experience behind it and a different, we come from a different place, not from a naive sense
Right.
of I can accomplish anything, but from a, oh yeah, I I have accomplished a lot. Yeah, I can do this. And so I see that popping up a lot more. Sort of a, yeah, why not? I can do that. Why not?
Yeah, I love that because it exactly explains how I feel. It's something I would have never thought, but I kind of feel like I have the 20-something energy where we
Mm,
do have more freedom. We have just so many choices. You know, you've worked your way to get here, and it is like, oh, just kind of endless possibilities to just have that feeling. But again, like you said, with more wisdom, more weight, more groundedness, maybe
right.
you know, yeah, just wisdom, all of it. It's a fun place to be once you get
Right.
here and embrace it. Like you said, I
Yeah.
think I don't know if you said crossing over or once, it
To the
is
other
there is a
side.
little bridge. Yeah, there's a little other side, a little bridge to go through. But
Yeah.
how do you guide women who feel called to something new but don't know what it is yet? So, for our listeners that are like, wow, I really feel a calling, but I don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, that's where exploration starts. And then it's, I think if they're at the place where they say, like, I feel like there's something else out there, but I don't know what it is, that's great. That's a great place to be. Then let's do everything and touch everything until you figure out what it is. And just know that you don't have to know the answer. And also you might start down a path because you think there's a thing, and then it turns out to not be the thing. So it's that explorer's mindset where you're like, let me just check it out. And so, and that can be done through, yeah, through talking to people, through volunteering, through reading books, through like, there's so many different ways to go about it, but it's
Mhm.
just staying in that. I don't have to have this fixed. I don't have to have the question answered. I get to just explore, and staying in
Yeah.
that mindset is the best thing we can do. And just constantly check in with yourself. Like, does this feel good? Do I want to keep going?
Yeah.
And that's,
I love that. Yeah, sorry about that. I love that you even said just touching things because sometimes we could get a connection through books or we can get a connection through getting ourselves immersed in like art or something
mhm,
physical. And I think learning, and I'm sure you lead your clients down that way, that it's just as equally as important to know what you like as what you
mhm.
don't like. That's such a, it's also a freedom thing to say
Yeah.
like, oh, I really don't like that anymore. And I could cross that off my list, or I don't have to go down that path like you said.
That's actually a really good point, and it comes up a lot because people feel like they have these ideas, and then they check them out, and they don't like them, and then they come back to me, and they feel like they failed in some way, and so we do
Yeah,
have to shift their mindset to be like, "No, no, no, that was really good work. Now we don't have to focus on those anymore,"
yeah,
and getting them back to that was their job, was to check it out and see if you liked it or not. You're not gonna like everything, and that's the point. You have to,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I love to coach on empowerment, and that comes with, as you talked about when you when I introduced you just about the mindset, the shift that makes reinvention feel less terrifying, more intentional. I love that word. That is definitely
Mhm,
a word for me going into this year. And maybe it's the midlife word is just
mhm,
doing things with intention. What's
right.
one mindset shift that you help clients to make things feel less scary? Is there any one person you could think of or just in general, how you make things kind of less scary making a leap?
Well, yeah, give me a second on this one because I think that's a really good question, and so much of it is in that word, like, intention that you used, but sort of having a plan, I guess, is a way to look at it. Like, what I help them do is to see that even the exploration is a necessary part of the plan. Like, you are moving towards something, and that is, again, intentional. And when we have that mindset, then we feel like, oh, well, we have our hands around it. Like, we got things under control. And I need to keep them in that space so they don't start thinking,
Mm,
going back to, oh, but I haven't figured it out yet, or I haven't found that next job yet, or I just need to remind them, no, you're not, it's not going to happen quickly. This isn't something that's going to get solved, in one session, but we have a plan, right? Here's what we're moving towards. And everything you've done has led you to this. And we're going to leverage a lot of those things.
yeah.
There was no time wasted, I promise you. And we're going to continue to be, because even if it taught us what you don't want, right? then that was not time wasted.
Yeah.
And so it is, you're right. It's a mindset. And if we can stay in that like intentional or planful sort of space where we know that everything we're working on is leading us to the next thing, if we don't know what that is.
And I love how you just were so reassuring as I almost felt like a client that I promise you none of your life and what you've done has been wasted on in being just who you are at that time, being just who you are at this time. It kind of reminds me of little kids like learning to ride a bike or at the bowling alley or now when I see go to a skating rink and just those little guardrails, right? It's just
Mhm.
having little guardrails for that transition into what I would say just their power and knowing of who they are and walking a little stronger, a little taller. Yeah, that is great. For women who are looking to redefine success, because at this stage, and we don't have to dig too deep into it unless it really comes up, if you see it come up in your clients, if they're talking about it. I think this is the one thing that might be behind closed doors that I don't know if women openly talk about is just how there's that little bit of starting to feel invisible. External validation loses its grip, especially even it could even be in the household, right? Like
Mhm.
kids need me less. There's younger generations coming into the workforce. So, how do you see any like midlife women redefining the success, but and more so, I think it's just getting that internal validation, right? Because they might have, I know I definitely did that experience where,
Yeah.
well, what's my identity? What's my worth
Mhm.
as a woman? All these other things have kind of gone away.
Mhm. It is interesting, but it is sometimes the thing that helps us with that, with separating your identity from your career, right? Is that maybe you start to get a little invisible. But I also think what's really important is that is to see how that just frees you up to focus on all the other parts of who you are, right? And to realize that, yeah, I'm never going to get all my satisfaction from that company or from that
Mm,
role. I actually feel more satisfied when I am, volunteering at the food bank
mhm.
or I really love taking classes. And so I think I'm going to learn a foreign language and I'm just going to give myself permission to do that, even though I don't need to. It just makes me
Yeah.
happy, right? It just frees
Yeah.
us to do these other things because we realize that it's just our life is, we all contain multitudes, right? And so
Mhm.
it's fun now to honor all those different areas as opposed to
Yep.
just putting your energy into this one thing that is,
Well, and yeah, I don't even know if women had the ability because once you're in things like a successful career, family, or your motherhood, and whether you're on your own and you're just literally adulting, like you said, I don't know if I mean, I think there's quiet moments where we might say, I don't feel satisfied, but we're in a keeping it going, striving kind of mode, keep all the wheels on the bus, keep it all together mode. Yeah, that when things free us up, yeah, that's nice to go like that doesn't have to be where I get my satisfaction anymore. And the timing's perfect because I kind of don't have it anymore for the career, you know,
right,
um,
right. Yeah.
it's kind
It's a good
of
place
nice.
to be, right? To realize that you actually can focus on yourself. Like that's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do. I kind of think, what is that Martha Stewart saying? But something about it's a good thing. What's it's a good thing. What truth you talked about the next generation, so just kind of winding things down here, what truth about midlife work would you love to rewrite for the next generation?
I think, what this makes me think about is, like I said at the beginning, I have a freshman in college. And I think because of my days as a recruiter, like I just kept saying over and over, because he's not going to be STEM. So he's not going to be a doctor, an accountant, and any of that. I just kept saying over and over, nobody cares what your undergrad is in. Please just get something that interests you. Like, just focus. Like, this
Mhm.
is your last chance to really just focus in that way. Like, do something that is that makes you happy and that will keep you engaged and interested. And, uh, and he did ultimately. He he picked something that I think is pretty interesting for him. But if we could keep that mindset, like, always keep
Mm,
doing that thing that makes us feel like ourselves. And for some people, it might be something you do outside of work. I understand that
mm.
there's always gonna be a period where we just have to get a job, and that's
Yeah.
fair. Don't let that be keep you, though, from also saying, "But I still wanna be creative, and I'm gonna continue to paint after work," or, do those things,
Love
just
that.
keep in touch with who you are because, one thing is inevitably gonna lead to another, and as long as you stay true to you and aligned to your values and your priorities, then there will probably be fewer midlife crises. There will be midlife evolutions. There will be midlife opportunities, right? But it won't be as much of
Yeah.
a crisis.
Yeah, and I love that you say that it won't be as much as a crisis and maybe not to have a midlife crisis. Because if there is one thing I could go back and do for myself, it would be to do exactly what you're saying. I had so many other interests, but I always kind of put them aside and was in the to-doing mode. What do I need to do more of, at work or in adulting instead of just really the enjoyment, the play aspect, the having that outlet. And I think just for mental, physical, spiritual health, if you have those things, like we were talking about the identity satisfaction
Mm,
all in work, well, that may be because you're not finding or allowing yourself satisfaction in the things you really enjoy and that balance. So that's a really, yeah, a really great thing as a reminder. What does career liberation mean to you at midlife? What are some things that you're looking for?
For me personally, specifically in my career, the same thing that my clients come to me for is, I want to make sure that I constantly make sure that I'm aligned with who I am and what I want, and that I can take the risks based on previous accomplishments and successes, right? That I just remind myself that I've done much harder things than the things that I'm having to do now, right? And so for me, career liberation is it's just, yeah, owning my accomplishments, owning my strengths, my skills, and being, yeah, to just walk forward with that sort of confidence, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you're basically you're living what you teach. You are embracing everything that you're speaking to your clients. I think that's the best example I'm sure that they get, whether it's like validation, confidence, like just from you being the example of what they're looking for and walking your own journey and truth. I think nothing's more beautiful than sharing one person's truth with another and just relating. And if midlife had a theme song for our generation, is there anything that comes to mind? Like, are any songs you're throwing out there to have
Uh,
at-home dance parties?
the song that comes to mind is actually the Friends theme song, right? Because
Yes.
to your point, like, this is no time to go in yourself, like, we need to be asking for help. That's, I think, why your podcast is really important because people need to know they're not alone, right? So even if you don't have a community around you, this is your virtual community right here. Like, you are not alone. We share some of the same struggles. It might manifest a little bit differently, but in the end, there's a lot of common themes, and so that I'll be there for you.
Oh,
Really sorta
that's
what
perfect. I love that, and I do start out a lot of my even, if people have been following me at all, I do start out a lot of 'em posts with, "Hey, friends," it's just my
perfect.
friends, so I love that song. When you think about your own midlife now, I meaning kind of that reflection of even if you had thoughts of who you would be in midlife to
Mhm.
what your experience when you think about your own midlife now, how would you finish that sentence?
Can you give me a little more? Give me an
Yeah,
example.
so if you were to say, like, when I think about my own midlife now, it could be wish I'd known, it could be I'm so glad that this,
Mhm.
when you just like
Yeah.
have a minute for yourself here or a second to think
Yeah.
about your own midlife, what comes up that you're for you?
Well, not to sound like I only have one train of thought, but I am so grateful for the people I have around me. I am so, so incredibly grateful for the people I have around me because I just don't know if I could get through it without them. It's such a good lesson for me in making sure I'm continuing to surround myself with the right people, the right energy, and, um, and to be that person that is there for others too in that same way. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just so grateful for who's in my life right now.
I'm gonna say word and 100% to that because, yeah, definitely need support and help, and that beautiful way to end that. Thank you so much for being here today. It has been so much fun, and I just want to highlight where people can find you. So if you want to not just change your habits, but rewire your brain for greatness, you can find Shelby at www.yourkeyforward.com for one-on-one personal coaching, corporate or professional coaching, and a list of our upcoming events. Anything else of where people can find you?
I am on Instagram at Your Key Forward also. I would encourage people to join my mailing list because I do have some fun new workshops that I'm going to be rolling out and ideally some group coaching situations also that's going to be coming up. So
Nice.
if you get on my mailing list, and I will not spam, I'm actually right now I'm lucky to get 1 month a newsletter a month out. So I promise I won't
Nothing too
clutter your
crazy.
inbox. But yeah, if you could just go to my website, yeah, yourkeyforward.com and join my mailing list, that would be amazing.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for joining me here at Men, Menopause, and Miracles podcast. It's my hope today's episode resonates with women in the middle of or ending successful careers, starting or ending businesses, and most importantly, who are listening to who they are at their core. You've built credibility, carried responsibility, and checked the boxes. And yet, something inside you is asking for more truth, more alignment, and maybe even a different way of working altogether. This isn't about starting over, it's about starting from here. Thank you for being with me and Coach Shelby today. Be sure to send a like, click subscribe, or follow so you're notified of each new episode that drops every Monday. If this episode gave you a boost of confidence about your midlife career choices, share it with another woman who can use some of the same. Again, I'm Suzanne, your midlife wingwoman, reminding you that midlife career change is not a pivot, it's a reckoning with wisdom, and you don't walk this threshold alone. Until next time, trust what's stirring, stay curious, stay brave, and let yourself become the woman you no longer have to explain. Bye for now.